Howdy folks, welcome to the workbench. Today I'm restoring this very old vintage Seiko. Now the hands on this are in pretty poor condition. The second hand is missing. We're going to source another one from my spare parts. The main problem with this watch when it arrived was not that though. That part's all easy. I'll reloom the hands and all of that, or see if I can find some new old stock. But the main issue was the crown and stem was stuck inside the watch. And the reason being was that this one particular spare part, that's about 30% of it just there, had broken off and was floating around inside the case. And you're probably saying, well, how was that important? Well, I'm going to sort of be able to show you, see if I can. The crown goes in here, and this isn't lined up anymore, but basically goes into there and then connects to the rest of the watch and allows you to adjust the time and the date. And normally what happens is to release a watch movement from the case, you have to take the stem out because obviously that's going from outside to inside the watch. And you have to do that in order to get the movement out. Now I'm just touching this with my bare fingers. I don't normally do that, but this thing is utterly filthy. It's covered in oil. It's going to get a good clean before I service it. That little broken tab just over here comes out just under here, okay? And I might have another exact same movement. Let me see here. Just move you over. Here we go. Here's one I prepared earlier. Now this one doesn't have a crown in it, which is great, but you can see the little tab sticking out right there. And you just gently push that down and it allows you to release the stem. Just like magic. The problem is that part is actually this entire thing right here, which you can see that part matches up with that part. And yeah, it's broken. So unfortunately, it made it very difficult to get the stem out of the watch because there was no lever there for me to press on. Now I started taking the watch apart thinking, okay, well maybe I can get access through here or through here. It was very difficult. In the end, I had to modify one of my tools, breaking it and sacrificing it. Luckily, it's only a couple of dollars to replace that particular tool. Essentially, it was one of my oilers that I use, my oiling needles. And that's one of the bigger ones here. But essentially, I bent that into an L shape and was able to get in underneath there and release the pressure from the broken bit, which once I now remove this movement, I'll be able to get access to the dial. I can remove the hands safely without destroying them more than they already are, and take the dial off and get to the what they call the motion works and calendar works, which allows you to change the date on the calendar, as well as the date changing at midnight, as well as the motion works, which are basically what allows you to set the time. So I'll get access to that and pull the rest of the watch apart, and then I'll be able to service it and clean it. The joys of watchmaking. So I was able to get the dial off shortly after. What I found was the dial spacer here was a little bit stuck. And then when I pulled the dial off, which kind of just fell off all on its own, I realized that it's just been stuck on with double-sided tape. And then I realized, hang on, this is an aftermarket dial. There's no markings on there that signify that it's a genuine Seiko, nor are there any dial feet. Now, what are dial feet? Well, essentially, do I have a dial here to show you? No, I don't. Hang on one second. Here we have a new old stock dial, which is one I'm going to have to use to restore this watch, unfortunately. But when I turn it over, you can see some dial feet. Now, this is an aftermarket one. When I said new old stock, it's still not genuine Seiko because there's no markings there. But it does have dial feet and it'll get the job done. So when I go to sell this watch, it will be marked as refurbished, and I will be stipulating that the dial is not original. Coming over here to the hands, I may end up using new old stock hands as well, or aftermarket ones, I'm not sure. Parts are extremely hard to find for these watches, and when you do, oftentimes they're in same condition, or sometimes in most cases, I should say, worse. So, yeah. And the surprises continue. So, I found a shard of glass underneath the dial, which means there could be more inside as well. Yay! What that means is we might end up finding significantly more damage. Now, I've already got part number 1, part number 2, probably part number 3, or I can try to repair this because it is broken, which is not uncommon. But as it turns out, guess what? Yeah, this is turning into a big can of worms. All right, the movement has been completely disassembled. I still have to disassemble the automatic works on the main plate up there, or the bridge, I should say, not the main plate. I called it the main plate before as well, my apologies. However, here it is, the bare movement. Thought it was going to be nearly impossible, but it nearly was, but got there in the end, which was great. The thing to always think about is to never rush these things. However, just wanted to show you, now that I got the broken part out, the comparison, here we go, of what they look like. And I think this is, if I orientate this around, there we have it, guys. That's what it's supposed to look like. In fact, looking at that other part here, you notice how that's quite shiny and that's not. It's almost like it's two different pieces, whereas if you look at the new one, and I know it's in a plastic bag, but it looks like it's whole. So, I'm not sure what the go is there, but it looks like this watch has been tampered with quite a fair bit. Anyway, there's the bare movement. I've still got the balance jewels in there, the shock protection, and here's the rest of the parts. All right, folks, well, I'm going to clean up the bits that aren't broken, then inspect everything, and then hopefully put it all back together and have a ticking watch. All right, folks, here is the finished watch. Now, I say finished, I still got a couple more things to do on here. One of them being that the movement ring inside is missing. I've ordered a couple, one for this one, and also this one here. This one here is the exact same watch, even though it doesn't look too similar. The bezel is obviously missing, so I've got a new one of those coming too, as well as the crown and a new stem, because the one in here is completely missing. The crown's sitting right there, however, it's broken, it doesn't work. So for the cost of a new crown and stem, it was worth just replacing the whole lot. While I was waiting for bits for these, I ended up getting this one from a customer along with a few other watches that they gave me to fix. This one's got a bit of a sad story. It was given to a professional watchmaker who turned out they were an absolute butcher and a savage. What they've done with this watch is replace the Seiko movement in here, which probably could have been serviced, with a Citizen movement, a Miyota movement. So whoever did that is a complete moron. The dial in it wouldn't fit that different movement, of course, because it's a different brand. So they've snapped the dial feet off, which locate the dial in the correct orientation. When I received it, the dial was actually spinning around inside, which had caused the hands to dislodge themselves from their position. The date obviously doesn't line up and unfortunately never will, so that's as close as it's going to get. You can actually see a gap between the dial and the outside of the case here, or the inside diameter. The reason for that is because a chapter ring is missing. Now, what's a chapter ring? Well, essentially, it's the minute markers that go around the very outside diameter of the dial. What they've done with it, who knows? The crystal, the glass, has been changed. However, it doesn't fit properly, so I can actually move that up and down with my finger. The crown there is incorrect. It should be more like that one, although that one doesn't fit because A, it's broken, B, it's too large a diameter to fit in that gap there. The sad news about this watch is that it can't be fixed. Now, I know it's ticking right now and everything looks okay apart from a couple of cosmetic things. The reason it's working the way it is now is because I spoke to the customer. I told them that this was a watch that was made in 1984 only for the Japanese market only. And what that means is it's very rare, nearly impossible, if not impossible, to find parts. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to use what we've got and use the ingenuity that we have to make this work as best we can. However, I have said to the customer, look, this watch is likely not to be worn, especially not being waterproof, the crown there being dislodged and not fitting correctly. On top of that, because the crystal can move up and down, that means that's not sealed properly either. You can go and spend hundreds of dollars fixing all of these issues up. The reality is the watch is going to go on display to commemorate the customer's father because it was their watch, but it was only produced in 1984, making it a very difficult watch to fix or replace. Secondhand ones on eBay that are in mint condition are going between $500 to $800. A sad ending to that repair. The same customer's also given me these ones to fix. That one just needs a new battery, but this Tag Heuer has a very, very special battery that's not available in Australia. I can't find it in the UK with my other suppliers. I have to go straight to Switzerland and find a battery that fits that. This one here is a Seiko Kinetic. The strap on it, or the bracelet on it, was a rip curl that was kind of retrofitted. I found a genuine Seiko one that basically almost fits perfectly. Almost. Lastly, what's been happening on the workbench is this watch was sent to me because the hands had popped off. The customer stated they shouldn't have worn it while they were moving. The reality is the hands popped off not because they were moving, but because the dial was actually not fitting to the watch correctly. The reason for that was because it was loose. The reason it was loose was because one of the dial feet had come loose because the screw was loose, and then the other dial foot, the screw was completely missing, nowhere to be found inside the watch. Happy ending with this one now. It's all fixed up. The dial screws are in place. Everything's happy. The hands are back on and they won't pop off again unless the dial pops off again. And it's all running absolutely right. One other thing I found while I was working on this was when I attempted to open the watch and take the crown out, the setting lever had broken. It was in place and it was all okay, but the screw that holds it in place was actually not threading correctly, and it turns out the threads on them were worn out so much that the threads weren't gripping with the threads inside. Make a drinking game out of how many times I can say thread in the next 30 seconds. Now this watch is running beautifully. You can see it's running perfectly on time, and that's the time on the watch I'm wearing right now. This one's for sale actually, and the same owner that owned this watch, I'm selling it on commission, owns this watch, which is not for sale. So if you want to buy this one, hit me up and we'll make a deal. All right, folks, that's what's on the workbench this week. Busy, busy, busy. And yeah, there'll be more coming up next week. And yeah, hit subscribe if you like this video. Hit the thumbs up, share it with your mates, do whatever you want. If you don't like the video, why are you still watching? See you next time.